Hi everyone, welcome to the next video in this series from Magical Worlds by Johanna Basford. We have our final frog to colour today using our Castle Arts Gold pencils. So let's have a little look at him. It's very cute. I like the lily pads and the sort of, I don't know what these are. I think they're floral, but maybe they're not. But does it matter is the question. Now, I have thought that I'd quite like to colour Mr. Frog in a brownish, greenish tone, because quite a few, sort of the common toad, English, or is it British toad, the native ones, and frogs are quite brown. So I thought I would have a little go with some more browny shades. So I'm actually going to start with the green gold and do his spots in this. I'm making this one up. I know I looked up the last one and sort of roughly based it on what I saw, but this one I'm just going to make him up and use this green gold. I'm just going to hold down the page. So I hope everyone's well today. It's brightening up now. I'm half expecting my phone to ring, but because my mum didn't call me yesterday. And when I noticed what time it was and that she hadn't called, it was a bit late to phone her because she'd have been having her tea. So I didn't. We usually talk to each other in the daytime. I nearly phoned her this morning, but then I remembered she would be out. So that would have been a waste of time. I've grabbed the earth green. Now this is very brown. We're not going to use it for our whole frog, but some of it. So I'm going to start with these little circles on the little pads. These are going to be this colour, and so are parts of the feet and legs. You'll see some frogs, the tree frogs, have these orange pads and legs, and then it sort of blends into a green, and that's what I'm going to do, but I'm doing it in brown, a greenish colour. I'm going to do all the long toes in this as well. And then here, I'm just going to sort of fade it up like that. There we go. So just taper it off as you go up. Now the reason I've chosen these sort of colours is because the lily pads are going to be green. And so I need this to be a different colour. I'll fade that one up too, and I think we're going to need a little bit in there, like that. Now it's at the bottom of his body. Yeah, so we'll do that. I'm actually going to do this quite hard. Well, layered up. I'm actually not pressing hard. There we go. It really is getting quite bright. I hope it stays bright. My son coming home. He was good. He's been having a bit of a sore leg, and he missed uni oxide of chrome on Tuesday because his leg was sore. But fortunately he went in today and he said it's been fine. I'm just roughly trying to go around those circles. It's quite tricky. There we go. I might do the tummy bit a different colour. I feel like it wants to be, but I'm going to taper that off into another colour as well. Let's make him interesting. A few different colours. There we go. About his face. I missed those bits. Well done if you yelled at me. I didn't hear you. I don't mean yelled, I mean shout, you know, called out. Just a bit. So let's do this bit as well. Now on all of these frogs I haven't coloured their eyes, and I think I'm going to keep it like that. Just leave this sort of black and white sort of circle that Johanna's put on, but you can of course do them whatever colour you wish. There we go, there's the oxide of chrome. So we need something a little bit lighter to finish that off. Now the olive green is a bit lighter, but I'm wondering whether to go much lighter and go cadmium green pep. That's a bit too light. Yeah, we'll do the olive green. Talk myself out of it. And I'm just going to sort of put it over the top of here and then take it up. And just work it through all of these little bits. I don't know if it looks significantly lighter, to be honest, but there we go. I can always put a little bit of yellow on, or a really light green if I think it needs it when I've finished. Yeah, I didn't see, sometimes I'm always ages in town because I see someone I want to talk to, but today I didn't, so it made me a bit quicker. I did go and buy some chocolate, some 100% chocolate. It's the Willie's Cacao one. They've started stocking in the sweet shop. They've been trying a few different 100% bars in there, I've noticed. I'm going to use the green gold for the lips, just so it sort of ties in. But yeah, the one they had in, I think it was a fire tree, I found it too bitter. The body I'm going to do in the leaf green deep, if I can find it. There it is. And they used to have 100% one from another brand which stopped making 100%. I think the problem with 100% is it is so expensive to make, because there are no cheap fillers. You know, in a normal chocolate you might have some, you have sugar, you'll have some sort of fats like a palm fat or something like that, and you'll have maybe a I'm just gonna make that a bit darker there. You might have some milk or dairy type things in, you know, like milk chocolate, milk in. I'm gonna find some colours for these lily pads. I think the phthalo blue is almost green. It's almost blue, sorry. The phthalo green is almost blue. I'll get my words out in a minute. And I think it's going to look a little bit too blue against the frog. The viridian we've used a lot before, but I think either it or the juniper green is probably the best colour. I'm going to use the viridian. Here we go. I'm just going to flat colour all of this, and then see whether I need to do anything different with it. Yes, they used to stock, oh, it was seed and bean, but they've stopped doing it. As I say, oh yes, the cheaper ingredients, so the sugar, the sort of milk or dairy, whatever they put in for that, and the palm oils, and then things, any additives, they're much cheaper than cocoa and cocoa butter. It's very expensive, and it's got more and more expensive. And the chocolate I like to buy an ethical bar, which means that they pay a decent wage to the growers, and they don't have slave labour, because unfortunately a lot of chocolate, or child labour, a lot of chocolate is picked by children. So I'm always aware of that when I'm choosing what I buy. Now this one here is underneath, so I'm going to make it a little bit darker along this edge. There we go. I'm just going to extend that dark a bit so that it's all a bit darker. Like that. I'll sort of fade it to the tips of it, each of these little sections. Yes, so I'm always a bit aware, but I'm sure that happens in many, many products that we buy, including our electronics, where some of the rare metals are mined by, you know, and it isn't just about children, it's about low wages and things like that. And it's quite wicked to think that our prices seem so high, and yet people making some of the goods are either not paid or just paid nearly nothing. It's interesting, isn't it? I guess it's all to do with cost of living. Now, And, you know, a lot of it we don't know. So these sort of florals, now we could make them look like lilies, because we're on our lily pad or something like that, but I'm quite keen on doing an azalea pink, just because it's a colour that I like. Where is it? Can't find it though. Here we go. Now, it's unusual for me to like a pink, but this particular pink is quite reddish, so that's why I like it. And I'm going to just fade towards the tip of these to keep it nice and intense down in this base and lighter on the tips. But I was thinking about, you know, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were saying that in the poorest families in the UK, the ones on the minimum amount of income that you can get, really, if you're on benefits and things like that, 70% of their income would have to be spent on food if they wanted to be healthy, you know, to follow the recommended guidelines, which is madness, because then what about heating? What about your phone bill? What about your water bill? You know, what about your lights, your electricity, your transport? And we can go on. Your rent. It's like, goodness me. So it's quite scary, isn't it? But because I think, think about, you know, my parents growing up, and my grandparents, you know, they didn't have phones, computers, even a landline phone, let alone a mobile phone. So they didn't have any sort of electronics. They might have had a wireless radio, and that would have been it. So their expenses in some ways were very much less. I'm going to use the permanent green. It's just an all-round nice mid-green colour for the stems. But their things like clothing was so much more expensive because it was all made in England. And so people didn't work for a pittance, you know. And then when we brought in laws, sort of minimum wage and things like that, British goods just got very much more expensive, and it meant that, you know, people started buying things from abroad because they didn't have the law to make things, you know, to the minimum wage law, so it was cheaper even with the import costs to buy something from abroad. Now we need an ultramarine blue for the background. I need to do the stars first. I am going to use the Brilliant Yellow. It's a great name. But for example, when my mum was small, she had one dress that she wore all week, and a Sunday best for church. So here we go, ultramarine. And I'm not sure. She must have had two, because washing day was Monday and she would have been at school. So she must have had two dresses because she couldn't afford school uniform. But it wasn't enforced in her school. And but the costs of electricity would have been so much less, and gas, because they didn't have, I mean, they would have used gas for a cooking on a gas cooker, and then electricity for lights, and maybe the iron, maybe not immediately because it would have been warmed up on the stove. And then they sort of darned everything, or made clothes they made their own clothes because it was cheaper, which is amazing because nowadays it's more expensive to make your own clothes. But I remember my mum saying that her father worked in army surplus at one point, and he, let's just say, borrowed some things from there, and they would have to be adapted and altered to fit, or I think sometimes they even had some sacks and things, you know. So and they had hand-me-downs, but things were much better made. So fabric didn't wear out like it does nowadays, so it could get handed down. Even my husband said he came from a very well-off background, and even in his family it was always hand-me-downs. He was lucky, he was the oldest. This is white pen to go around our stars. So because he was the oldest, he may have had some new things, but he still had hand-me-downs from cousins and neighbours and things like that. You know, it was just the way it was always done. I remember having some hand-me-downs myself, and we didn't tend to do that. My mum didn't like second-hand because that's what she'd grown up with, so when she could afford to buy new, that's what she wanted. But I remember some people would give us things and she couldn't really say no, and me and my sister used to love it because they were so different to what we would normally buy. Right, I'm going to put a few dots in our flowers as well. There we go, just a few at the base. But yeah, people didn't have so much as we do now, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. You know, if it means that we're going out without healthy food so that we can have something that we barely use, that's not good. But it might be something important. It's hard to know, isn't it? Anyway, I am done with Mr. Frog. We have one left. Well, not a frog, that's our last frog. I've enjoyed colouring these frogs. We have a snail tomorrow to finish. So thank you so much for watching. Hoping that you have a really lovely day. And happy colouring.